Yo, what's good, guys? RJPD here, back again with another video, and today I'm just going to talk to you guys about something that I enjoy talking about. It is the NBA. I'm going to tell you one opinion about each team that I had and explain it and explain why it wasn't a very good opinion in hindsight. One opinion that I had that was pretty much just wrong. And let's just do alphabetically. We're going 30 NBA teams. This was an idea inspired by someone called HITC Sport. He did 20 English Premier League soccer teams or football teams, depending on where you're from. And he basically came up with one thing that he thought was like completely idiotic, and one of them was flipping hilarious because it was the fact that he thought Ricardo Quaresma would be a better soccer player than Cristiano Ronaldo. Alright, let's go. I'm going to the 76ers. Alright, obviously here, we got Markelle Fultz. I thought he would be the face, almost the face of the 76ers, maybe even over Joel Embiid. But no, he was very awkward. The situation just didn't work out there, and he got shipped for nothing. He's starting to pan out a little bit on Orlando, but I was completely wrong about Markelle Fultz, as was about 99% of the basketball world. And as well, I didn't really understand the hype around Ben Simmons in LSU. They didn't make the tournament that year. I wasn't that excited for him, but his game really did translate very well to the league, so credit to him. Milwaukee, I really did not understand how good their development system was. They developed the heck out of players. You cannot get a better place to develop your game than Milwaukee, Wisconsin, it seems, because players like Giannis, Middleton, Brogdon, Lopez, like, just all of these players just changed and developed their game. Like, even players like Ilyasova, George Hill, like, these guys are all like, they've all sort of even evolved in their game on Milwaukee, and their development is incredible. I completely misjudged their development in the early decade. I thought that they would just be one of those trash teams like Sacramento. I thought they'd be in like that boat, but I was wrong. Chicago Bulls next. I thought they'd make the playoffs this year, guys. Nope. I thought that their starting five would be very solid, all young, with guys like Kobe White. I thought this would be their starting five of Kobe White, Zach LaVine, Otto Porter, Lauri Markkanen, and Wendell Carter. That's what I wanted to see their starting five be for the majority of the season. That just wasn't the case because of a lot of injuries and management issues. And Jim Boylan, just get out of management, please, my guy. I'm sorry. Jim Boylan, you shouldn't be coaching the Chicago Bulls. You may as well just give me your job instead, because I think I could get more motivation out of the players. So, next up, I thought with the Cleveland Cavaliers, the main thing is I thought Kevin Love would be the number 2 option on their championship team with LeBron James when he came back, not Kyrie Irving. Whereas Kyrie was the clear number 2, Kevin Love was the number 3. I just thought that big fat K Love that we got in Minnesota, that 25 and 15 K Love, that guy was gonna like keep going. He was just gonna keep going, and I was wrong. He was pretty dang good, still all-star quality, very good third option, about as good of a third option as we've ever seen. Probably one of the 10 best third options we've seen in the history of the league. But I did not even think he'd be a third option, and that's probably why he was so good as one. And also Andrew Wiggins. We all know about Andrew Wiggins. I thought he'd be so much better than he was. Everybody thought that. And then next up with the Boston Celtics. Obviously, Danny Ainge's basketball mind. Nobody expected that trade with KG, Paul Pierce, and Jason Terry that initially didn't look the greatest on paper to a new basketball fan, But now that I look back at it and analyze it more, it just looks like the perfect trade for a team that's trying to build for the future and the present in a way, because they already had other assets. And they were still trying to just keep building and building, so they weren't really bad for very long, were they? So I underestimated that. And also Jason Tatum, I did not think he would get drafted by the Celtics. I thought he'd get drafted by the Suns, because I thought Josh Jackson would go above him on draft night that year, because I really didn't watch college basketball. I think on one of the draft reports I saw Josh Jackson above him, and I was just like, okay, I think Josh Jackson's probably going to go up here. I didn't really know much about Jason Tatum and how good he really was at the college level, and I didn't even know that the Celtics would have taken him number 1 if they didn't trade that pick, because they probably would have anyways, because of how hyped up he was in that Celtics locker room and in that Celtics board. And next up with the Clippers, I did not expect anything from their general management team this year. Their general management team has went above and beyond, and they snatched my Paul George from the Thunder. The Thunder, that's my team right there, the Thunder. Snatched Paul George from his, and that was probably the biggest shock to me in the last couple of years in basketball. Even bigger shock than Kawhi leaving the Raptors. I was more shocked when Paul George left the Thunder, because I thought that after he re-signed that contract, he was not going anywhere. I thought that was PG and Russ, and I thought we were going to try to build around Jeremy. The Thunder were trying to... I'm going on a tangent with the Thunder here. I'm on the Clippers. I'm sorry. So, the Clippers, just... their general management this year has been off the charts. Their team looks like they have a great chance to win the title this year. And even last year, they saved up for 2 max slots and still made the playoffs. That's incredible. Next up, we got the Memphis Grizzlies. There's not a lot about the Memphis Grizzlies. I mean, there's the fact that I really did think that R.J. Barrett would contest with Ja and Zion for Rookie of the Year. I thought R.J. Barrett would be a much more competitive rookie. I didn't think he'd make the Knicks competitive in any way, but I just thought that he'd average better shooting percentages, just probably a few less turnovers, and just I thought he'd be a little bit better, honestly. And Ja, I mean, I knew Ja would be incredible. I heard about him in Murray State. He just looked like... You just knew. And, the grit and grind, I never saw that team making it out of the first round in a playoff series back then. But I was wrong. They made it out as an 8 seed against, I think, the Spurs once. That's difficult, especially against a team run by Coach Pop, too. If I'm mistaken on that, I'm sorry, but I know the Grizzlies won one year as an 8 seed against a 1 seed, and I never thought that grit and grind team would ever get past the first round. And then next up, the Atlanta Hawks. Kevin Huerter is still in the NBA. Yep. That's my surprise. Because when I watched Kevin Huerter play for Maryland, I swear I could have built a brick house with the amount of bricks that man was shooting when I saw him play. It just did not look right. I mean, he shot a lot of threes. It seemed like they were about 40% in college when, season overall, but it looked like they were about 20% when I was watching him. So I just thought he would flop. I thought he'd flop bad. And I was screaming at the TV, why are you drafting Kevin Huerter? He's trash. But he's not trash anymore. I'm sorry, Kevin. And as a Terrapins fan, I'm sorry that I didn't believe in one of our guys. I believed in Alex Len a hell of a lot more than I believed in Huerter. And I think Huerter's going to pan out to be the better player. And then next up with the Miami Heat, I thought that not one, not two, not three, not four, but about five were going to happen there. I thought they were going to win at least 4 championships with that dynasty for sure. The Bosh, Wade, LeBron, I loved Mario Chalmers because I loved playing with him in NBA games. Just I had like so much belief in Mario Chalmers. Like something in my heart was just like, Mario Chalmers, we want you to succeed. But yeah, I just thought the Heat would be even better than they were, and I definitely did not see them losing in 2011. That was a shock to me. And then I was just like, Dirk is German Jesus. Hail Dirk. And now going on to another team that has not had a lot of success, just like the Hawks. I mean, the Hawks I haven't really had much to predict with them, but this is a rather new team. We got the Charlotte Hornets next, and I thought that with the signings of players like Batum and Williams and having Kemba and all that in a season like 2016, 2017, I thought the Hornets would be a playoff team easy. And they now just look like so dysfunctional. They look like one of the most dysfunctional franchises I've seen in a long time. And they look like they really got to build up because that Terry Rozier contract was no good. At least they drafted well. That's just a saving grace because their 2 biggest assets right now are Devontae Graham and PJ Washington. You really want those as your 2 best assets? I don't think so. And then next up, the Utah Jazz. We all know about that series, Donovan Mitchell. Yep, I remember. It hurt. It hurt bad. I honestly think it might have hurt worse than the Dame goodbye. Like, that shit, like, that hurt. Like, a rookie just pounded us. Pounded the Thunder. I did not see that coming from a rookie. I knew he was good. I knew he was really good. I thought he should have won Rookie of the Year. And even though Ben Simmons may have been a slightly better player, but it was ever so slightly. But I just thought since Ben Simmons had like a whole year of being around the league, I think the NBA should have like gravitated the award more toward Donovan Mitchell, and he should have got it. But that's just my opinion. And then next up with the Sacramento Kings, I thought that Buddy Hield and De'Aaron Fox would probably have gotten to the playoffs by now. I thought that by the time Buddy Hield was 26, 27, they'd be in the playoffs, but they made one huge mistake, and that is paying Harrison Barnes $25 million a year to be one of the most average small forwards in the league. I mean, he's not bad by any means for an NBA player, let alone a player in general. He's not bad for an NBA player. He's a decent NBA player, but he's not by any means worth $25 million. I don't even know if he's worth $10 million a season, even at this point in the league. And that's just a painful one for Sacramento. I just thought they'd be in the race for at least being in the playoff contention, but I don't think they're even in the games this year. Sacramento, they just flopped. I just thought they'd be at least decent by now. And then next up, New York Knicks. Obviously, the one is RJ. That's the main one. And I also did not see the New York Knicks drafting Kevin Knox. and Frank Ntilikina. I did not think that they were going to draft those two players. Why? Because there were better players on the board who were better, and I thought they were better at the time. Hey, look, I was right about something. I thought the Knicks would pounce on Michael Porter Jr., and I thought that was a no-brainer, easy pick. But they let him fall another 5, and I was just stunned because the Knicks needed a small forward. Even though Knox was projected to go around 9'10", I just thought Porter was, even with the back injury, and he looks like when he's playing, he looks like a stud right now. And his build is just so good for the modern NBA game. I just don't know how you could pass up on him if you are in the New York Knicks front office, especially with how big of a name he was in high school. And then next up, the Los Angeles Lakers. Big one is I thought Magic Johnson would still be head of basketball operations, of course, in Los Angeles. I never would have thought he'd leave after he signed LeBron James. I thought he would stick around, and I thought that he would stick around through like the Anthony Davis trade, the Lonzo and all that. I thought he'd stick around and pull through with the Lakers, and I obviously didn't even know what the heck LeBron was going to do in that free agency. I honestly thought he might have returned to Cleveland because I just thought it's his home, and it's just really, I thought it would be wherever his son goes to school. That's what I thought would happen with the LeBron free agency, I think 2018. But yeah, I think I was right on that one. So next team we got is the Orlando Magic. I thought this team would be like consistently like below average throughout this decade after that Dwight Howard trade. Even though they weren't great for a couple years, I thought they'd still have stunk the last 2 or 3, and they've shown that they have fight in them in players like Vucevic, and they've got guys like Augustine who've been all right, guys like Fournier who've been all right, guys like John Isaac, who's very, very good on the defensive end and shows a lot of promise, and Aaron Gordon, who's, even though he's not been the greatest for a number 3 pick, he was still a pretty dang solid NBA player. But I didn't think that they'd pan out as well as they did because they just didn't like have an impressive gravitational brand of basketball after that Dwight Howard trade, and I just thought that they'd plummet. And it honestly looks like, believe it or not, I think out of that entire trade, that Dwight Howard trade, the Orlando Magic won that trade. And they let go of the best player. The Orlando Magic won that trade, in my opinion. And next up, we got the Dallas Mavericks, obviously 2011. Who the heck in their right mind would have been a kid thinking that the Mavericks would win the championship? No kid thought the Mavericks would win the championship in 2011. I was flipping 9 years old. I couldn't see it happening at all, but I was wrong. Dirk Nowitzki was just German Lord. And I didn't really see Luka being as great as he was. I thought he would be very, very good, but I didn't really understand how incredible he really would be, especially considering he wasn't taken first. It was just because he wasn't taken first that the hype just kind of wasn't as there for me as it should have been. But Luka Doncic, how you don't take him first in that situation if you're Phoenix, and how you pass up on him if you're Sacramento, he could play small forward for you. You have a $25 million salary filler who's just there right now, and you could have a $10 million MVP candidate instead, and you could have just gotten Rashawn Holmes back at center, who's not even that much worse than Marvin Bagley. Like, Sacramento, bruh. And next up, Brooklyn. Brooklyn. Oh, Brooklyn. Oh, Brooklyn. They messed up big time with that trade, obviously. But the main surprise with me is actually good for Brooklyn. I did not see deloading coming through in the NBA after I saw him in a LA Lakers uniform. I honestly thought he would just be bang average throughout his career. That doesn't look like he's going to be the case. It looks like he's going to be around borderline all-star form. But I just thought, after watching him as a LA Laker, he was just going to consistently be bang average, even though he was still the number 2 pick in the draft. But you can be wrong about things sometimes, and I just did not see D'Angelo Russell leading that next team to, I think, a 6 seed. And that's just very impressive from a young D'Angelo Russell there. And then obviously we got the Denver Nuggets next. And the obvious is Nikola Jokic. And the one thing that actually really surprised me is I thought that the Nuggets would find a way to try to find a way to keep Jusuf Nurkic on that team. And I didn't really see them keeping Millsap. I would have thought they'd try to get Jusuf Nurkic and Jokic in the front court together. But I don't know exactly how well that worked and how well that would have worked had Denver tried it through the long run, but we don't know. You can't check now. I mean, you could do like what if simulations, but that's about it. And then next team, we got the Pacers. I did not see that man VO coming through like that. I remember when people were saying Oklahoma City got Paul George for a bag of chips. I remember saying, no, we got Paul George for a bag of chips and Victor Oladipo. Because I knew Victor Oladipo would be good. Not an all-star, I knew he would be good. I also did not know anything about Domantas Sabonis. Because I was who's this foreign guy? Because, I don't really know much about foreign names in the draft. I haven't really paid that much attention to the draft names except for the last, 2 or 3 years. But, I did not see the Pacers pulling through the way they did. And the way that trade panned out just so well for them, and how those two assets, Oladipo and Sabonis, they started off on the Magic, they got their way over to the Thunder, and then they made their way over to the Pacers. I just found it quite interesting how Oladipo and Sabonis just have moved together throughout their career. They've been continuously on the same team, and they've been on 3 different teams technically, even though I think Sabonis has really only played on one. Sabonis was a Magic pick who was traded to the Thunder and was then traded to the Pacers. So I just did not expect the Pacers to pan out as well as they did and be a continuous playoff contender for the last couple of years. And next up, the New Orleans Pelicans. I thought that they would satisfy Anthony Davis easily with the DeMarcus Cousins trade. I thought the DeMarcus Cousins trade was the key to a Pelicans dynasty. I thought the front court was the future of the league. I loved watching front court basketball, where I was clearly wrong. The back court was the future of the league, because chucking up threes is the move now. But I loved that I loved that more grit and grind style, even though I didn't really believe in it that much in Memphis. I just loved the idea of just running, getting to the basket, and throughout the years I've learned to appreciate the drive and cut a lot more. I just love the idea of driving and cutting whenever I play like a 3-on-3. But if you didn't know, Roger tore his ACL again, so that's not going to happen again for a while. So next up, we got the Detroit Pistons. Did not think Blake Griffin would be an all-star on the Detroit Pistons. And I also thought Andre Drummond would be worth a lot more than a actual bag of chips. Like Brandon Knight. Brandon Knight was the main asset in a trade for Andre Drummond, who is the best rebounding big man in the NBA for his height, of course. I mean, he may just be the best rebounding big man all around. And he's not bad defensively either. And he puts up 10, 12 points a game. So it's hard to not value that for something more than Brandon Knight in a second-round pick. That's insane. And then next team we got the Toronto Raptors. I'm very surprised that they won that championship in 2019 because I just thought the Warriors were just the Warriors. I was just like, they will never be stopped. Golden State is almighty. Bow down to Golden State. We are all victims. I thought the league was still finished. I thought Golden State would literally still be a dynasty this year, whereas they're competing for a number one pick this year and trying to rebuild that dynasty for next year, which is something I really did not expect. But we'll see how that goes. But the Raptors, I did not see them beating that Warriors team at all. The Raptors and Kawhi, I did not see that trade panning out as well as it did. I didn't really know about Kawhi's work ethic, but when Kawhi plays, he is probably closing in on one of the 10 best small forwards to ever play the game when he's playing at his best. And then next up, the Houston Rockets. Okay. We all know how Thunder fans feel about Houston Rockets. You have our gem, the gem that we just basically handed to you for Kevin Martin, Jeremy Lamb, Jeremy flippin' Lamb. Oh my. And Kevin Martin just didn't even pan out for us either. I thought he'd be at least alright, but he wasn't that great. But that was just the surprise of the decade for me. James Harden panning out the way he did. And he is again looking like a top 3 MVP candidate for, what is this, the 4th or the 5th year running? Like, what? What is this man on? I think he was, in the running when Westbrook won it, when Curry won it, when Giannis won it. I don't even know if he was in the... I don't even know how early he's been in the running. I mean, I think he was in the running when Curry won it both times, maybe. I'm not sure. But Harden has been very good for a very long time, and I just did not expect the Rockets to pan out the way that they did. And obviously with guys like Capella as well helping that team succeed. And Chris Paul, the big trade for Chris Paul, that was a big help for Houston. And I'm very happy that they were able to pull through, but I was very upset when they lost to the Warriors in the finals because Chris Paul was hurt. Western Conference Finals, not the NBA Finals. And then next team, the San Antonio Spurs. I thought Greg would not blow it this year, even though their team was probably the worst team he's ever coached in his life. I still didn't think Greg would blow it because it was Greg. I thought DeJounte's defense would literally make him a borderline all-star this year. I thought he would come out after that torn ACL season, just come out all guns blazing, just ready to go, and not tear it again like me. So, but he was just pretty good and not much better than a lot of people would have expected. And then next up, the Phoenix Suns. I thought that the start that the Phoenix Suns had to this season was not a fluke. I thought it wasn't a fluke, guys. I thought the Suns would legitimately be good this year for quite a long time. Because I thought with guys like Booker and Ayton, I thought that they'd finally start to click. But the mistakes that they made this year just... Oh my goodness. It was tough for them this year. It was very tough for the Suns this year in the draft. And with giving up TJ Warren for chunk change, that was just not it. Come on, Phoenix. Next team is my Thunder. Obviously, there are quite a few things that I could say about the Thunder that some of you may not know. One, we actually had a trade set up to get Tyson Chandler onto the Thunder. And he, one of our doctors at the Thunder was worried about an issue that Tyson Chandler had with his foot. So he failed Tyson Chandler for the medical, so the trade did not go through. And the trade did not involve one of our big three assets in Westbrook. Actually, one of our big four assets even. It did not involve Westbrook, Harden, Durant, or Ibaka. It did not involve any of those guys, and we could have gotten Tyson Chandler. Instead, we paid Kendrick Perkins $8 million a year, which made our general manager scared to pay over the luxury tax, which meant we had to trade James Harden to the Rockets for flipping Kevin Martin and Jeremy Lamb. We all get it. And also, we got the Thunder. They also just didn't really have a great off-season. This past off-season, you would have thought, in terms of how talented their team got over the off-season, how much they improved talent-wise. We thought that they decreased talent-wise tremendously, but it looks like our team talent is pretty similar to where it was, even with assets like Russell Westbrook and Paul George, because we have leaders like Chris Paul and guys who can run and space the floor like Gallinari. We got young guys that are hungry like Luguentz Dort. And just guys that are trying to show that they're worth a spot in this league. So I'm looking forward to the Thunder's future for sure, especially with all of our picks. And then next up, the Minnesota Timberwolves. I thought that the amount of number one picks the Timberwolves had would have been enough. They got Wiggins. They got Towns. Not long before that, they got Derek Williams, number 2. I don't even remember if they had another number 1 pick on that team or not. But they just needed more number 1 picks, apparently, the Timberwolves, to make a playoff push, because right now they just got Cat and D'Lo, and then that's about it seems, because they just didn't do well in the draft this year with Culver. I thought he'd pan out quite a bit better as well, but I was definitely wrong there. So, yeah, that's unfortunate for the Timberwolves. Next up, the Portland Trail Blazers. I thought that Damian Lillard would take that, the big step. I mean, he's been very, very good. Don't get me wrong, top 10 player in the league. But I thought that this year he would be top 5, battling out top 3. And I thought he's needed to be that to get far in the playoffs, but I was wrong about that in 2019, because they made all the way to the Western Conference Finals. I mean, they got destroyed, but they made it there. So, I mean, Portland, they've impressed me throughout the years. They've been a dark horse team always in the playoffs when they made it there. Doesn't look like they're going to make it this year, but we'll see. And then next team we got is the Golden State Warriors. I did not expect them to flop the way that they flopped this year. I didn't expect Steph Curry to get that break in his hand. I didn't expect Klay Thompson to be that much of a missing piece to the puzzle, because his defense is so undervalued, and I really did not understand how big of a hit it would take. And they've even had guys on the Warriors step up this year, like Jordan Poole and Eric Paschall. But they're still not the greatest team in the league by any means, and they're competing for a number 1 pick this year, for goodness sakes. And they're going to have Curry and Klay back at full strength next season, it seems. So with a top pick, I think that's going to be pretty scary. And then, last but probably not least, because this is a lot of the people who watch this video's favorite team, because I am from Maryland. I live about 25 minutes from Washington, D.C., but I also live about 30 minutes from Baltimore. So, but I was born in Baltimore, so got to rep Baltimore for me personally, even though I think I live a little bit closer to D.C. right now. But the Washington Wizards. I thought that by now that they would be a legitimate contender continuously. They'd be, with that Wall and Beal and Porter draft combination, I thought that the Wizards would be a constant contender by now. I didn't think that they'd be struggling to make the playoffs constantly, it seems. But, I mean, the one year that they made it pretty far was pretty nice, but this year they don't look great. Last year they didn't look great. I didn't expect Washington to be struggling this bad this late into that rebuild of the Wall, Beal, Porter, Wesley rebuild. Yeah, so unfortunate for Washington there. And so that's one thing that I didn't really think I got right about every single NBA team. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this little talk. It's almost like a little podcast sort of thing. This is about 40-minute video. So hope you guys enjoyed hearing my voice. Hope everybody here has an amazing day. This has been RJPD. I'm signing out, y'all. Peace.